Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about partial diamond shape crochet motifs. And so this is one that I have here, and this is the side of the diamond. Now most people might say, well, that's just half of a square on an angle. But in fact, a diamond shape takes on a slightly different shape than a square. Because as you can see in this motif, this granny diamond shape, we have a tall end, which is the top and the bottom, and then we've got a shallow end, which is on either side. So if I were to turn it this way, you can definitely see that the diamond shape goes longer down one side than it does the other, whereas a square would be perfectly equal on each side by their angles. So we've already done a tutorial on how to create a diamond shape from a circular base. So today we're going to talk about how to create one half of it. So many times you may be using these motifs for blankets or other projects, and it creates some gaps here. So if I have another diamond shape, you've got a gap here, right? So this would be the top part of the diamond. Other times, you have diamonds one on top of the other. Let me just back up here. And this creates a gap here. So this is the shape we're going to create today, which is half of a diamond shape from the shallow side of the diamond. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start. In this particular motif, I'm using this for a specific project, a toddler's blanket. So I have 4 different colorways in here. You can certainly do it all one color or just 2 colors or however many colors you like. And I am just going to take you through how to start off with a semicircle shape and create the shape of the peak here, with intentions that this is going to be half of the side of a diamond. Now, my particular color starts with this sparkly purple, and I know dark yarn isn't the best, but it's just a small segment here, so bear with me. This is the color I'm using for this project. So we're going to start with a cinch circle. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of a smaller one. And I'm going to secure my loop with 1 chain. Okay. And now in this instance, I'm using all double crochets. So let me just go to a regular diamond here. So this circle started off with 12 double crochets, and then we increased a second round to 24 double crochets. So most people would say, well, if it's 12, then it should be 6 for half. Now, if I was going to continue to make it a semicircle, then that would be correct. But because I want to create a peak or a triangular shape, I am actually going to double crochet 7. So I need an odd number so that I've got 1 single stitch to create the peak. So right now, I've chained 1 to secure my cinch circle, and I'm going to chain an additional 2, which is going to give me a total of 3, and that's going to create the height of a double crochet stitch. So this means I will need to double crochet 6 more times into the circle. So you're just going to yarn over, and just be careful not to get that short tail in the way. It's easy to do and easy to mistake that for your working yarn. And the first round is always the funnest because you've got pieces of yarn going everywhere. Okay. Whoops. Be careful not to split your yarn. So this, and for this project, by the way, I got so excited about jumping into it. I'm using all medium size 4 weighted yarn because that's what I'm using for this particular project. And for this, I'm using a 5mm hook. You can certainly use any weight category of yarn that you like for your project. Just so happens that this is what I'm using. So we have, how many do we have here? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need 2 more, so there's 6. And there is 7. Okay, so I have 7 double crochets. I'm going to take my short tail here and I'm just going to cinch that tight. And if we were doing a circle, we would try to cinch them together, but we're not. We're just creating a semicircle, which you can see is nicely formed there. Now I'm going to do another round in the same color. So we're going to chain 3. And then we're going to turn our work. And now we're going to increase in each stitch. Okay. So we're going to insert into the base. See how it sits nicely there for us? Into the base of that chain 3. So remember, chain 3 counts as 1. So technically we have 2 in that stitch. We're going to go into the very next stitch and do 2 double crochets into there. So we have 1 and we have 2. Into the next stitch, which would be stitch number 3, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to insert and do 1 double crochet, and then we're going to do 2 double crochets. Now, into the 4th stitch, remember we have 7 in total, we're going to just do 1 double crochet. And this center stitch will be the anchor of where we create our peak. Okay, so we've got 3 sets on each side with 2 double crochets. So you can see there's 1 set there, and see there's the 2nd set, and there's the 3rd set there. Okay, so this one's going to be a single double crochet on its own. Now I'm going to find the next stitch, which is right there, and we're going to do 2 double crochets into that. Into the very next stitch, which is right there. I'm going to do the same thing, and be careful because the chain 3 is right next to it, so it's very easy to misplace where to place those stitches and to then short yourself a stitch or 2 actually. Okay, and now this is the top of our chain 3 right here, and we're going to do 2 double crochets into there. So we'll just find a nice snug spot to insert our hook. Be a little bit tight. And there we have it. And there we have our semicircle. And because I'm going to change colors, I'm going to snip my yarn, but if you wanted to, you can continue on. Because I'm not working in the round, I did turn my work. So you're going to have a front side of the work and a back side all showing. But for future rounds after the next color, we'll work in rows, so you won't have that issue. Okay, I'm just going to snip my yarn, and I like to sew in my ends as I go. So I am just going to weave my tails in, and then I'm going to meet you when we change colors and we actually start talking about creating the peak. So go ahead and sew in your ends, and I'll meet you in a few minutes. Okay, I've gone ahead and sewn in my ends, so I've got this really nice semicircle shape. Now I'm going to add in my next color, which is going to be the pink. So this is the round where we're actually creating the peak shape or the triangular shape. So this is where things are going to change a little bit with regards to the types of stitches that we use. So I'm going to start with a slip knot. And I just changed hooks because of the color, but it's still a 5mm hook. I'm going to find the end here, so I'm just going to decide I'm going to start here. This is the top of my chain 3. Be very aware not to accidentally insert into the top of the first full double crochet, because then you're going to miss this stitch. So the top of the chain 3 is right there, so I just insert my hook. And I slip stitch to secure my yarn. Oh, it's a little testy there. There we go. Okay. And now, because this is the side of the diamond, my peak is going to be a shallow peak, unlike the top of the diamond here, which is the tall peak. Okay, so we are going to create the shallow peak here. So this means that I need my tall sides to be on my bottom ends. So I am actually going to start with a chain 4, because usually you do a chain 3 for a double crochet, but a chain 4 is usually the height of a triple crochet, which is what we're going to start with. So on each end, we're always going to do an increase stitch. This means we're going to crochet 2 stitches into 1. So we've chained 4, which represents a triple crochet, and now we're going to yarn over 2 times and insert a back into that same stitch. And we're going to triple crochet. So we have 4 loops on our hook here. We're going to pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2, yarn over, and pull through the last 2. So you can see it's quite a tall stitch. So we've done 2, and now what we want to do, following the same shape as this, is we want to do 2 more triple crochets here. Okay, so we're going to yarn over twice and into the very next stitch. So remember, this is the top of the chain 3, so the next stitch is here. So very often this stitch gets hidden, but the top of it is right there. So I'm going to insert my hook, and I'm just working over this short tail as well, so I'm just going to move it out of the way. Yarn over, pull through 2, the next 2, and the next 2. So there we have it. And now we're going to do 1 more into the next stitch. So we yarn over twice. Now the next stitch is a little easier to find. It's right there. Pull through the first 2, second 2, the last 2. So on each side here, we're going to have 1 increase of triple crochets and then another 2 stitches of triple crochet stitches. Now I'm going to continue on and do 3 double crochets, 1 into each of the next 3 stitches, which should take us back up to our, remember that lone double crochet we have here? It should take us right up to that stitch. So we're only going to yarn over once this time. Insert. That's 1. This is 2. This is 3. Okay, so now you can really see that it's slanting, but on a much more shallow notion than of a regular triangle that would go up straighter. So as we suspected, this brings us up to our center stitch, which is a singular one on its own. We're going to do a peak increase here. We're going to continue using double crochets, but we're going to stitch 2 double crochets into this stitch with a spacer. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook, and do 1 double crochet. Then to create the spacer, we're going to chain 2. So a taller peak, we would usually chain 3 with a triple. Here we're only chaining 2. Then you're going to yarn over and insert back into that same stitch. Okay, so now you can see that that really is becoming the peak here. Now we're going to go back down the side the same way we came up, or we're going to reverse the way we came up. So see how we had 3 double crochets leading up to the increase? We're going to do 3 double crochets leading down from the increase. So into the very next stitch, you'll insert. That's 1. Into the next stitch. That's 2. into the next stitch, that's 3. So now you can see how nicely it's coming out. So now down the side here at the end, we have triple crochets. So we're going to do 2 individual triple crochets, 1 into each of the next 2 stitches. So we yarn over twice, find the next stitch, pull through, and we do it again into the next stitch. Pull through. There you go. So that should leave us with 1 single stitch left right there. It's a little bit thick because I sewed in my end here. So we're going to yarn over twice, and we're going to insert our hook wherever you can nestle it in there. And we're going to do 2 triple crochets into that same stitch. So there's 1, yarn over twice, and then we have a second one. So we're always pulling through 2 loops. And there we have it. This is the base of our triangular shape. So I'm just going to zoom in there. Don't worry that it curls up a little bit. That's natural when you've got longer and shorter stitches side by side. So you can just set it down, kind of stretch it out a little bit. So there you have it. We've taken a semicircle, which now actually is starting to really look triangular, and changed the shape into the side part of a diamond. Okay. So now the shape has been formed. The next row and every row after that will just be very straightforward. It'll be double crochets only, 1 into each stitch, and we're just going to have increases on each point. So basically, to create these shapes, once you've created the base shape, any row after that becomes quite simple to do. So I am, for this particular motif, I'm keeping this color. So I am just going to continue on and show you how we're going to continue to build the size of our half diamond shape. So we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. So remember, we're no longer going to worry about doing triple crochets. These are all now going to be doubles. So that's why I chain 3. You'll turn your work, and because you're at one of the points, you're going to do an increase, which means you're going to double crochet again into the base of that stitch. And now we're just going to do a single crochet, we're going to do a double crochet, 1 into each stitch all the way until we get up to the peak. Okay, so go ahead and do that. I think your double crochets are pretty straightforward. 1 into each stitch, and I'll meet you just before we get to the top of that peak. And here we are, our last stitch. And now we're at the top of our peak. Now this is what we call a shallow peak because it's the side of the diamond. So we are just going to double crochet once into that space, and then we're going to chain 2. So we want to always maintain a space there. We'll yarn over, insert, and do another double crochet. So at the top of our shallow peak, we always do 1 double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. The sides will now continue with a singular double crochet all the way down to the point, and then an increase. This will continue on for any further rows you want to do to increase your size. Okay, so go ahead and do 1 double crochet into each stitch, and I'll meet you at the bottom corner there. Okay, I'm just coming up to my last stitch before the corner. And remember, on the points, we have to do an increase. So this is a chain 3 here. Sorry, this is the chain 4 of the previous row. So I'm going to find the top, which is right there. I'm going to insert, and I'm going to do 2 double crochets into that same stitch. So the increases on each point is what help to maintain that triangular shape. So there you go. Now you can really see it's taking on that form. So cool. Okay, so I am going to snip off my yarn because I'm going to change colors. But I am going to do one more row with you to show you that now each row after this follows the same formula, if you will, of this second pink row. So I'm going to make, in my particular motif, and I always forget, I've done this a million times, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more rows, all done with double crochets with an increase on each point. Okay, so I am going to go to my lilac color, and I'm going to start with a slip knot. And I am going to consider this my right side, because now we're not going to need to flip the work, because I'm going to, for me anyway, I'm going to change colors with each row. So this is all going to be my right side, if you will. So I'm going to find the top of my chain 3, which is right there. I'm going to insert, and I'm going to slip stitch to secure my yarn. There we go. And I'm going to try and work over that first short tail right away. So like we did in the previous row, we chain 3. And then we double crochet back into that same stitch because it's an increase. We're at a point. So each point gets an increase. And then I'm going to double crochet 1 into each stitch until we get close to the peak. But I like to always go over this because see how that gets hidden? It's easy to miss where it is because this one's quite obvious. So make sure that you don't skip this one because it will mess up your stitch count. So you want to insert right through there, pull through and pull through too. Okay, and we're going to continue on and double crochet 1, double crochet into each stitch all the way until you get up to the peak. And there we'll have to do an increase. Okay, we're just coming up to our last stitch before the peak here. And so we're going to put an increase here of 1 double crochet into that space. We're going to chain 2 and then double crochet back into that same space again. Okay, so that creates the increase in our peak. Then we just continue on, make sure to find that first stitch there. We continue on doing 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way back down the other side. I'm just going to motor along here because it's pretty straightforward. And then when we get to the bottom corner there, we're going to increase like we've been doing in the other corner, the bottom there. Now again, I'm going to go ahead and add a few more rows here because I'm going to make it quite large for my blanket. But if you wanted to, you could simply stop with just these few rows here. So here I am at the end. I'm going to do an increased stitch, so that means I'm going to double crochet once and then twice back into that same stitch. Okay, there we go. So you can now most certainly see the shape is taking form of the diamond. You've got your top peak here, and then you've got your 2 corners here. I'm just going to fasten off because I am going to change colors. I'll just fasten off there. Okay, so I'm going to leave you here because each row after this is the same idea, just 1 double crochet into each and then the increases in the corner. But I want you to see how this is taking shape. So this is right now, see that? Fits nicely right there. So my particular diamond goes another few rows. And what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to continue on, but I'm going to meet you when I do my last row here because when we do the diamond shape, and this is another example, the half diamond, you can see that in my last color, I then continued on to just kind of close off the whole motif here. Okay, and again, this looks wonky here because we are working into the sides of these stitches. So they are naturally going to bunch a little bit. But once we start adding our border row, this will kind of flatten out. So those of you that are using this for a blanket, like I am, don't stress about this because it will all work out. Okay, so go ahead and finish your half diamond as big as you like it. And then I'll meet you back here when I'm doing my final row. Okay, so I have finished my final round. I forgot to mention that with each increase we have in the corners, you're going to increase your stitch count by 6. So each round will increase by 6 stitches. So you keep going to the number that you want. I needed 25 stitches on each side, so that's why I kept going to the number of rows that I did. So now I'm coming up to the end of my gray row here, but I want to continue on along the, I guess what will be considered the bottom end. Now, but if you look clearly, these are all the sides of stitches that we are going to have to work into. So that's why sometimes when you first do that initial row, you get a little bit of bunching here. So we just want to kind of be aware that we're coming around a corner here. So I'm going to, now that I've done my last increase, I'm going to chain 1, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just slip my hook into those side loops there, and I'm going to do a single crochet. So that chain 1 just helped me go around the corner, and then I'm going to insert my hook again at the bottom of that stitch and do a single crochet. Generally speaking, when you're working into the sides of stitches, if you have a double crochet, you can usually work 2 singles into the side of each double crochet, and your work will come out fairly even. So that's what we're going to do here. So the thing is with the sides of stitches is you just got to kind of feel your way around and see where to insert your hook. So I'm going to insert my hook here into the top of that stitch. But now I'm going to insert my hook into those side loops here. If I can just find a way in. Sometimes you gotta get creative. Single. Now I'm going to go to the top of the next stitch, and just wherever you can nestle your hook is fine. Now I'm going to go into the side loop of this stitch, and I'll just work over that little tail there. Now I'm going to go into the top of the next one. So you can see that that's just giving off a nice finishing row here to our half diamond shape. So this is what you're going to do into the side of each double crochet. You're going to try to find a way to insert 2 single crochets into the sides of those stitches all the way until you get to the end of the other corner. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and continue doing this, and I will meet you at the very end. So I've just finished stitching my last stitch here, and this is the side of the beginning. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to snip my yarn, and I'm going to resolve this yarn right through here. So usually people would chain 1. But here's what I'm going to do. I am going to do what I like to call my seamless join. So I am going to find a stitch into the side here and just going to insert my hook, try and grab 2 loops, pull through a little bit snug, then I'll go in through the top and down the center of that stitch, and just nice and snug. And guess what? It just looks like it's seamlessly together. You can't even tell where it's been joined. I love this technique. And then I'm just going to come around the back and just sew it up. And I will just seal it all off, and we'll be ready to go. So there you have it. There is your half diamond shape, and this is the side half. So I'm just lifting that up there. So basically in this tutorial, we've done half of the diamond either to your right or to your left. So depending on how you see it. So I hope you found this quite helpful. It's a unique design in the sense that we're starting with a semicircle and then changing it to a triangle. It's great work for motifs in blankets, even scarves, if you want to do a smaller version of this. So if you have any questions about some of the techniques that we did here, of course, definitely leave us a question in the comment box below, or pop me an email at info@crochetcrafty.com. And if you like our tutorials and like listening to some of our stitch session conversations, make sure to click that subscribe button so you'll stay up to date when we upload our videos every Wednesday. In the meantime, guys, happy crocheting and take care, everyone.